My name is Gina Burgess. I am 41 years old. I started the divorce process when I was about 37. And I have 2 children. My son is now 15, well, almost 15, and then my daughter is 17 now. We enjoy doing many things, mostly outdoors, being with family and camping, and that's actually one of the reasons why the divorce process actually became a little bit harder, because we were so involved with family as far as both sides.
What brought about the divorce specifically?
The divorce was brought about, unfortunately, through way of finances. We became in as a downturn in the market. I'm within the real estate profession, and being within the real estate profession, as our market took a downturn, so did my income drastically, unfortunately. And with my husband at the time being a construction worker and being in the construction industry for many, many years, our worlds were very different, and he did not quite understand that. Therefore, when income depleted, obviously there had to be other actions that went along with that. They were not true, but allegations, finances, and other items led to there just no longer being harmony and so much hurt that we just couldn't continue within the same household without it affecting our children.
So how did it feel when you realized that you were being divorced? I mean, did you decide this? Did your spouse? Or did both of you? Did it come as a surprise? Even if you had agreed on it together, was it like, oh yeah, but I never thought he would do this, or like, have me served at work, or?
Yeah, I was the one that initiated the conversation regarding the divorce, because our home life just was no longer good. And even though I spoke of it and I was thinking we were talking amicably, well, things did not become amicable in a very quick fashion. He immediately drew money out from our 401k through his place of business. I came home with the children one evening, and at that time found cords taken out or just hanging freely from the walls where a flat screen television was, furniture missing, paintings, pictures of the children from when they were small, all gone. Things that my best friend for 17 years just never thought would have done. And it still hurts, just because you think that you know somebody so well, but these type of things everybody weighs in on, and so they then start to go ahead and do things that may not be within their normal character that you know it. It now becomes what everybody else tells them what they should do to protect their interests, unfortunately.
If you encountered confusion or fears or concerns about separation, what kinds?
My greatest fears were to be able to maintain a lifestyle and a life in general for my children, and knowing that one income was going to no longer be within the household. I may have to move. We owned a home together, and I knew he was going to try to fight for it, but at the same time I was needing to fight as hard as I possibly could for that home, because that's what my children knew, and I needed to make sure that things remained as best as they could, as normal in every other aspect that they could, because much of their world was going to be definitely different with not having both parents in the home.
Did you get a lot of resistance from your spouse?
I did. My daughter is hearing impaired, and so I've always been extremely involved. We've done so much additional schooling and so many additional speech therapy, so I've always been very involved with my daughter. And the question of resistance, it relates directly to this, because now I was told I was no longer a fit parent. My husband, who, like I said, told me day in and day out, and I have letters and cards on Mother's Day telling me what a great mom I was, now was contesting my ability to care for my children and therefore keep their life normal. This went into a heated battle with through a custody evaluation, costing us literally thousands and thousands. Totaled me about $6,000, or us $6,000. Something that definitely was just out of anger and angst altogether.
So, how did you overcome it? And if you haven't, just how do you cope with it? And how well do you think you're coping?
Well, some days I cope better than others. Unfortunately, we have been officially divorced for going on a little over 2 years, but separated for, I said, over 4, and even could be 5. But he's still very, very vile. He's nasty with me, and so those days get hard. I've had just to distance myself in order to continue to cope better and realize that I'm teaching my children lessons. And the one lesson I always try to instill upon them is that you cannot change somebody's actions, but you can definitely be in charge of your reaction. And therefore, just take the higher road. As painful as it is, and as much as you want to lash back, you just keep taking the higher road. And you know, it will eventually pan out. And the one thing I know is that if something were to happen tomorrow to him, I wouldn't be saying, oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that, or I wish I wouldn't have done that.
You've been through a lot, so why come here and talk about your lawyer? What good did he do?
Well, you know, these are all things that happen between the individuals going through the divorce. The one thing that I appreciated so much about you, Eric, is the fact that you talked with me as an individual, as somebody on your same level. When people come to me for real estate, I ask that they respect the fact that I'm a professional in that industry and that I know best. But I also try to speak to them at the same level as I would with a colleague that knows just as much within the industry. And I did find that with you. You were not my first attorney. I was referred to an attorney beforehand, in which cost me double of what I had paid out, and I received far less action, also far less information. Each time I presented a question, I may not have always got the answer I wanted to receive, but I did get an answer. I got an answer in a timely fashion, and I also received advice. Things what I would have liked to have seen, or what I felt I would have liked to have received. For example, my ex-husband had taken several tools, several things that were passed down from my father, who is deceased, so it meant a whole lot. But those things are just possessions, and as hard as it is to detach, I needed somebody there to guide me, to tell me how much truly is it worth, because Eric's willing to fight for those things, but at the disclosure of saying we need to take some emotion out of it and realize, what will you get if you receive these back? Is it going to be worth the payout for us fighting? Because obviously they were taken to begin with, so he felt that they were his. And that is something that I so appreciated, because within real estate I deal within foreclosures and short sales. So when I'm talking to homeowners, I'm constantly telling them, okay, we need to take the emotion out of it, and it's hard to do. And here I was in a position where my emotion was starting to be consumed, so I so appreciated the fact that somebody was willing to say, take the emotion out and let's deal with some facts. Something that was beyond invaluable. Like I said, I know what my father's intentions were, and that's what means things. It's not the tools, it's not the possessions, it's what his intentions were, and those will always be there.
What advice would you give to somebody who is confronted with a divorce, either because they realize that's happening, or even worse, they are handed a stack of documents and they realize, I'm being sued for divorce? So whether that's something that they think it's coming or it's a total surprise, what kind of advice would you have for someone? What do you wish you knew then that you know now?
I think just to try to be geared up mentally as much as possible. As I mentioned, married for 17 years to a high school sweetheart, so together before that, so relationship well over 20 years, and I was part of their family, and now siblings won't talk to me, in-laws won't have nothing to do with me, and it's painful. So gear up, because there's things that you can't control, and you just need to go ahead and realize these are things you can't control. The hurt will not go away, but it definitely assists and helps in seeing somebody. And I've always found myself to be a very strong woman, and so I find myself within uncharted territory. Never in a million years would I thought I would have sought out a counselor or somebody to go ahead and see me through these times. But it helps. Lean on your friends and family, but at the same time, lean on them for support. Don't lean on them and bog them down with all your moans and groans, because the reason why you hurt is because people have taken sides. So don't ask for others to take sides, even if it's your side that you want to be taken, because that's the reason why it hurts to begin with.
That's good. Thank you. I think we've covered, unless there's anything that you wanted to cover, the one thing that I think is useful also is, what did you not like about how we treated you, and what would you have wanted done differently? Or you can also say, there were times when if this isn't true, then you don't make anything up. But sometimes it's like, I sometimes felt that my lawyer didn't understand me, or my lawyer would tell me to take a different path, and that was and my guess is he'd say yeah, I don't think you should do this, but if that's what you want to do, we'll back you up as best we can. Or yeah, you know what, he was so callous, but I know he didn't mean it, or even there's one thing I'm really not happy about, and I'll still to this day kind of be irked by it. Something like that, if you think that's appropriate.
I don't necessarily think there would be anything I would change. The only thing, just because I'm having to deal with so many things after the fact as well, is to get everything just wrapped up and tied up in a bow. And just as right now I'm fighting still several years later, because per the decree, my ex-husband was to sign over the deed to the house. That did not take place. He had agreed to it. There's repercussions that we can now take, and we will be taking, but it definitely would have saved a lot of the bitter contact that we've had now, would he have just taken care of it. So any and all documents, he's still on a few bank accounts that he's refusing to sign.
Would
So
it
it's
have,
just
and let me ask you
only
this,
getting signed.
would it have been worth it to spend more time and money on it, or would you have preferred just to kind of slow, I mean, because a lot of people,
Yeah.
the reason I ask that is because some people might say, yeah, once I saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, I was ready to quit. I was done. I was like, good. I've got a decree. There may be some loose ends, but I just can't take this anymore. Was there any of that experience with you?
Yeah. I mean, I thought that, you know, geez, if he's finally came to terms, we were able to get all this wrapped up and taken care of, let's get it done. You know, he agreed. If he agreed, he agreed. Well, he agreed, but his actions have not been cooperative, and that's why it would be nice to go ahead and that's why I encourage anybody, put out the extra money then and there, get the deeds, get whatever it is that needs to get signed over, make sure it's executed over to the attorney, because not only did his demeanor change towards me, his demeanor changed towards everybody. And I say he, being my ex-husband. It even changed towards his attorney. His attorney has now, I guess, distanced himself from my ex-husband. I have no one to contact as far as an attorney is concerned. He refuses to represent him again. So it's just a matter of tag. And I just, you know, you fight and fight, and so when it comes back and you're fighting again, it's like, oh, here we go again. What else can happen? And that's why I say spend the money if you need to then, because having to go ahead and drag up memories that were not good to begin with, that brought you to this point, will definitely save, I think, long-term grief.
But you wouldn't have known that
No,
until you lived through it.
I definitely would not have known that
Yeah.
until I would have lived through it.
I don't think anybody blames anyone for saying,
No.
hey, I'm done and I'm tapped out financially, but you're saying where there's a will, there's a way.
Correct,
Okay.
and I'm now having to go back to court to have him sign these documents and get them taken care of. So I'm putting up money in, and granted I am a little bit more financially stable now again, since, you know, I've been able to kind of get everything under control and a budget with me being on my own, and everything else. But at the same time, it's still the grief. It's just get it done, get it wrapped up. But
Perfect. Anything else?
I think one other item is that whatever you do in life as a profession, usually the best people within their professions have a passion for it. And when you have a passion for something, you take care of your people. And I think that's what continually impresses me with Eric, is in talking to him or in just sitting in the lobby, as you can hear him just discussing just how divorce works as a whole. You can hear the passion that he has for the law, not necessarily divorce, at least I'd hope not, but as a whole for the law and how it works. And that alone gives me the utmost confidence, because if somebody has passion, they will go ahead and make sure that you're taken care of.